Cheers and salutations. Welcome to Americans Learn. My name is Kit. Please be sure to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Be sure to hit that ring bell notification. That way all of you are made aware when we upload new content upon our YouTube channel. And today, we're going to do something a little bit different. This is titled 1917 Russia's Two Revolutions by Epic History TV. Now, some of you have been typing and sending us messages saying, hey, you should check out Epic History TV. And to that, I say, yes. To number 2, I say yes. And number 3, absolutely. Now, if this is the kind of content you want us to check out here and explore and learn a little bit more about, your feedback will be greatly appreciated. So let's learn about Russia's two revolutions. Now, I'm only familiar with the Bolshevik Revolution. I am unaware that there were two. So, hey, we all get our learn on here. So let's get ready to learn something about Russia's two revolutions in 1917. So this is obviously taking place with the time period of the First World War. The war to end all wars, the Great War. Unfortunately, there will be a sequel to it. So, grab yourself a tasty snack and a tasty beverage, and let's get ready to check it out. In a 3, a 2, a 1. I shall never agree to a representative form of government because I consider it harmful to the people whom God has entrusted to my care. Ugh. Oh, Nicky, I gotta sit you down here, buddy. You're in for a world of hurt, buddy. And just remember, that oh-so-fantastic fleet that you sent to Japan, yeah, look, buddy, that should have been the first canary in the coal mine. There were probably many other canaries in the coal mine that were telling you, buddy, you need to change things up, or it's going to be too late.
In 1894, Nicholas II became ruler of a Russian empire that stretched from the Baltic to the Pacific, inhabited by 126 million people from 194 ethnic groups. It was a country in which workers and peasants lived in poverty and hardship, while Russia's elite, its imperial family and aristocracy, lived lives of gilded luxury. There was a long history of struggle in Russia against the injustices of the system. And in 1905, a revolution forced the Tsar to allow the creation of a State Duma, or National Assembly. But its power was limited, and the compromise pleased neither the Tsar nor the reformers. In 1914, this divided empire was plunged into fresh crisis by World War. World War I was a disaster for Tsarist Russia. At the front, the country suffered a series of devastating defeats, while at home there were food shortages and economic chaos. The Tsar was held responsible for the crisis. After all, he was now the army's commander-in-chief, and he was standing in the way of government reform.
Plus, it also doesn't help the fact that Russia was horribly ill-prepared to deal with the Central Powers. I was almost going to call them the Axis powers, but that's the wrong war. Central Powers. Russia wasn't ready, and their equipment severely lacking, and of course many of the men dying in ridiculous battles.
His German-born wife, Empress Alexandra, was even thought to be supporting Germany, while the entire family was said to have fallen under the spell of a Siberian mystic and faith healer. Grigory Rasputin. In December 1916, Rasputin was murdered by Russian aristocrats, possibly with the help of British secret agents, both groups determined to end his influence over the Tsar. But in the eyes of many,
and they really did everything they could to kill that man. I mean, a lot to kill that man.
the damage had already been done. On the 23rd of February 1917, thousands of women took to the streets of the Russian capital, Petrograd, to mark International Women's Day and protest over bread shortages. The next day, they were joined on the streets by workers and students carrying placards that read, "Down with the Tsar." Troops ordered to put down the disorder mutinied and joined the protesters instead.
Oh, that's where you know you're losing everybody. Because again, this is what taking place in 1917. They're not no, people are getting screwed. They're in poverty. It was again. There's a film, the original one, Dr. Zhivago, great work of art. I encourage all of you to check it out if you haven't seen it. It does a fairly good job showing what was happening during that time frame.
Tsarist officials were arrested. Prisons and police stations were attacked. Emblems of Tsarist rule smashed and burned. The government had lost control of the capital. The Tsar was told by his ministers that order could only be restored and Russia saved from military defeat if he gave up power. So, on the 2nd of March, Nicholas agreed to abdicate. In just 10 days, 300 years of Romanov rule had come to an end. The February Revolution had been remarkably swift and bloodless, and hopes were now high for the creation of a more democratic, more just Russian state. Members of the State Duma, the National Assembly, had formed a provisional government, which was to hold power until a constituent assembly was elected, to give Russia a new constitution. But in reality, the provisional government shared power with the Petrograd Soviet, a council elected by workers and soldiers that controlled the capital's troops, transport, and communications.
Gee. Soviet. I wonder which side is going to be winning this fight.
The Petrograd Soviet, dominated by the Socialist Revolutionary Party and the Marxist Menshevik Party, was much more radical than the provisional government. Yet it supported the government's decision to continue the war and honor the commitments that Russia had made to the Allies. It was a fateful decision that ultimately played into the hands of one of the smaller parties, the Bolsheviks. Their leader, Vladimir Lenin, recently returned from 16 years in exile, bitterly opposed the imperialist war. He also demanded the immediate redistribution of land, from rich landowners to peasants, and the transfer of power from the bourgeois provisional government to the People's Soviets or councils that were springing up across Russia. The Bolshevik program was summed up in a simple slogan: bread, peace, and land. And
Fair enough. Reasonable. After, 300 years of royal rule and jackboots on people's necks. Yeah, I think it's reasonable.
as Russia's economic and military crisis deepened, its appeal to the masses grew and grew. In June, a new Russian military offensive ended in disaster, with 400,000 Russian casualties, massive desertions, and the collapse of army morale and discipline. In July, soldiers and sailors...
400,000 men dead, jeez. One battle, casualties, that? It's reasonable to see why things went bad for the Tsar and Russia as it did.
In Petrograd mutinied. They were joined in the streets by workers with Bolshevik support. But troops loyal to the provisional government opened fire on the protesters and dispersed the crowds. A police crackdown followed, leading to the arrest of several Bolshevik leaders, including Leon Trotsky, while Lenin, with the help of Joseph Stalin, fled to Finland.
Stalin. That doesn't sound like a major character. I don't think we have to worry about him too much. I don't think he'll play a big role in the years to come. But hey, that's a pretty nice name, Joseph Stalin. I mean, I don't know if he has a character arc or not.
Traveling with forged papers under the name of Konstantin Ivanov. A socialist and stirring orator named Alexander Kerensky became Russia's new prime minister and was hailed as the man who would save Russia from anarchy.
Hang the German supporters and spies with Lenin at their head and disperse the Soviet.
The army's commander-in-chief, General Kornilov, believed Russia's war effort was being undermined by chaos at home and deliberately sabotaged by men like Lenin, whom he declared a German spy. So in August, he ordered his men to march on Petrograd to restore order. Bolsheviks played a leading role in the city's defense against this attempted military coup. Their most brilliant organizer, Leon Trotsky, was released from prison and sent armed Bolshevik militias, the Red Guards, to defend key points in the city. Strikes by railway workers, many of them Bolshevik supporters, prevented Kornilov from moving his men by rail, and his soldiers began to switch sides, or simply go home. The Kornilov affair cast the Bolsheviks as saviors of the revolution. And by the end of September, they'd gained a majority in the Petrograd Soviet. In October, Lenin decided the time had come. He secretly returned from Finland to Petrograd and began preparing to seize power.
It would be naive to wait for a formal majority for the Bolsheviks. No revolution ever waits for that. History will not forgive us if we do not assume power now. Lenin.
On the 25th of October, the Bolsheviks made their move. Red Guards and loyal troops seized key points around the capital, and that night they stormed the provisional government's headquarters at the Winter Palace, an event later immortalized by Bolshevik propaganda and the great Soviet filmmaker Sergei Eisenstein. Kerensky fled the city at the last moment, narrowly avoiding capture. And the next day, at the Second All-Russian Congress of Soviets, Lenin announced the overthrow of the provisional government.
If we are not ready to shoot a saboteur and a white guard, what sort of revolution is that? Nothing but talk and a bowl of mush. Ah, jeez. Well, things are about to get a little bit bloody.
The following months saw the Bolsheviks consolidate their hold on power, while fighting a brutal civil war against counter-revolutionary, or White Russian, forces who had foreign support. Some whites hoped to put Tsar Nicholas back on the throne. After his abdication, Nicholas and his family had been held under guard at Tsarskoye Selo, outside Petrograd, where they occupied themselves with gardening and other diversions. In summer 1917, the family was sent to Tobolsk in Siberia, where they lived under house arrest in the governor's mansion. The following spring, the Bolsheviks had the family moved to Yekaterinburg. In July 1918, as white forces approached the city, Bolshevik soldiers gathered the whole family in a cellar. The Tsar, his wife, their son Alexei, their 4 daughters, Olga, Tatiana, Maria, and Anastasia, as well as 4 servants, and executed them all.
There are 2 movies that actually depict that scene, and it's not easy to watch. A Soviet Photograph.
Russia's Civil War was one of the 20th century's most devastating events. An estimated 2 million soldiers lost their lives, while a typhus epidemic and famine claimed the lives of a further 9 million civilians. By the end of 1921, the Bolsheviks had emerged victorious, and under Lenin's determined and uncompromising leadership, set about building a new socialist order. The Soviet Union, created in 1922, emerged as a world superpower following the defeat of Nazi Germany in World War II. But it would always remain a single-party state, where all opposition or dissent was ruthlessly suppressed. Those brief hopes for Russian democracy that flowered amid the euphoria of the February Revolution were extinguished by the Bolshevik October Revolution and put beyond reach for decades to come. Bridgman Images are the leading supplier of art, culture, and historic images and footage. Representing many of the world's finest museums, collections, and artists, their experts are ready to help with research and copyright for projects ranging from TV and film to publishing and advertising. For more information, please visit bridgmanimages.com. Epic History TV.
All right, fantastic. All right, so first of all, I'm going to tell all of you, please support Epic History. The original link to the video is in the description box below, so do the right thing. But I was unaware of the February Revolution and the hopes and dreams that it was supposed to accomplish. But yeah, I think we all know the old saying, hope in one hand and crap in the other, and see which one fills up faster. Yes? No? Yes? I think we all know what's going to be happening here, and, well, with good deeds, and no good deed goes unpunished, eventually they get cast aside for those who will perhaps take the initiative even further. But still, 2 million soldiers dead, 9 million civilians, that's like 11 million people. I was unaware of the massive amount of death from the Civil War and, of course, the consequences of the ongoing war. Famine, disease, poverty. History is very brutal, but if we don't learn from it, we are doomed to repeat it through the rhythm and rhyme of human tragedy. If this is the kind of content you guys like us to check out, you guys and gals would like us to check out, please type in the comment section below. And if there's any other documentary videos that talk about Russia and these 2 revolutions and the aftermath of the Bolshevik Revolution, send us a link or tell us what we should check out. we would greatly appreciate it. Until then, take good care of yourselves.